Hello, welcome to 3ABN Now. We're glad that you've taken the time to watch this program. Today is a very special program. We're being blessed by Malvinas, Penland. She has involved with her husband in a ministry called Miracles Without Borders. And we want to tell you about miracles. Malvinas' life is full of miracles, and she wants to encourage you. You'll be blessed, I know, because of the stories that Malvinas will share with us. Malvinas has a text that I want to share with you, and it's found in Ephesians chapter 3 and verse 20. The Bible says, "Now unto him that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us." God is wanting to do exceedingly abundantly more than we ask. Malvinas, welcome to the program. Tell us why you enjoy this text.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I enjoy this text because it really just explains that the God that we serve is able to do whatever we can ask or think, above and beyond. So that is why it's my favorite.
I think when we stop, when man stops, God takes over.
That's where
it's a wonderful thought, and that's something we need to keep in our minds.
Well, Malvinas came to our studios a while ago and recorded some music. So we're going to listen to one of those songs right now, Spirit of the Living God.
Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Hey. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Mold me and melt me, fill me and use me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Every hour, most gracious Lord, no tender voice like thine can peace afford. I need thee, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee. I need thee. Oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior.
That is a beautiful song, and Malvinas, you sing that so well. I really enjoy it. A little bit later in the program, we're going to be giving you information on Malvinas's CD and how you can contact her to get copies of that. So make sure you have a pen and pencil ready now, so you can make sure you can jot down those details, and also the details of Miracles Without Borders. So Malvinas, once again, thank you for coming. We really appreciate being able to spend this time talking about your testimony, because the first time I heard you say any of it, and I thought, oh, we've got to interview Malvinas, because her stories are so important and ones that will help a lot of people to know that God answers prayer. And so welcome. I want to start, and I know John does too, with where are you from?
I am originally from Zimbabwe. Yes, I grew up there, and I moved to Australia 14 years ago now. I think it's getting to 14 years ago. Yep.
Were you brought up in a Christian home?
Yes, I grew up in a family of 9 children. I was number 7. I was down on the bottom, and I think I was just treated like the last born, really. And Mom was conservative Adventist, and Dad was what I like to call him an atheist, if you like. He did not believe in God at all. And so it was very fortunate that we all leaned on Mom's side, so all the children kind of just went to church. And even though Dad was a really good dad, but when it comes to the God thing, he didn't really like that at all, and he didn't like Mom taking us, dragging us to Pathfinders and doing all sorts. But I'm very grateful for what Mom did, because Dad eventually, after over 40 years of being married, he had a massive stroke. And when he had a stroke, he was sick in bed for probably 4 years. It really hit half of his whole body. And on his deathbed, he asked my mom, "Can you tell me about that God of yours that you're always talking about?" And Mom praised God, and she told him about God, and he gave his heart to God. He was too weak to be baptized, but they anointed him, and he passed away after a month.
You know, Malvinas, I'll just back up a little bit. You're growing up in a home where your mum is the spiritual head. How did you relate to that, knowing that your dad didn't want you to go to church probably, or whatever? How did you relate to that? Because there are a lot of viewers out there, they may be under similar circumstances. Just share how you coped with it.
Just watching my mom was such a leader and such a woman of God, and I watched things happening when she prays and prayers being answered. I thought, wow, if this woman can do this, I think I can follow that. And so because of what she did and how she led everybody and how she was an example to everybody, I mostly leaned to her because of what I was seeing. And I didn't see much of that on Dad's side. So because of that, it was easy for me to lean on Mom's side.
So is she a sacrificing mum?
Very much so. She was more than a sacrificing mum.
With 9 children?
With 9 children. She was, I like to call her a soldier of Christ. Yes, I like to call her a soldier of Christ, because that's what she was.
Because I know as Christians we depend upon God, and God says he will provide all your needs.
Yes.
So your mum really put that to the test, didn't
Pretty
she?
much, pretty much. I could see it through and through that my mum put that to the test, and it happened. It worked, and I could see God working in her life. And I said, that's what I want. I want to see that. I want to do that. I want to be that woman. Yes.
What a wonderful example.
Yes.
We have a photo with some of your family members, your mother and some of your siblings.
Some of our siblings.
Just tell us briefly, where's your mum?
I've lost a few of my siblings now. There's 6 of us left. My mom is wearing red. And now the oldest sister is one in cream next to Mom to the left side. And then the second one is wearing green, I think you like, with a floral dress.
Yes.
And the third brother is next to him with a white shirt. And then I am next to that brother. And then the one with a brown jacket is the one that follows after me. And then last born is the really tall one, right on the end, right on the left side.
Okay.
Yes.
So they all,
and the other one is just...
So they all in Zimbabwe at the moment?
Some of them live in South Africa, but most of them, yes, they live in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Yes.
So what did they feel, what did they think about you coming to Australia?
It was it's exciting for them because there's not much privileges in Africa. So me being sent to Australia was like I am Joseph was sent over to a land of plenty, and I'm able to help everybody back home. So I think it's good for them. They're excited I'm here, even though they miss me.
Yeah.
And
I
so
miss them too.
take us to the point of how you came to Australia.
How I came to
Why?
Australia. Yeah, it's a pretty tough story, but how I came to Australia, I was married to a man from Zimbabwe, and I was married there for about 3 years, and he got employed to come over to Australia to work as a mechanic, and so that's how we moved to Australia. But during that time, the marriage just became rocky. I got married when I was 19. Back in Zimbabwe, and that's just what you do. Like in that country, that's what you do. So I moved over here, and I had a child, a little boy. When we moved over here, the marriage was shaky, and it got worse. And he hated the job that he was doing as an auto electrician. So
How
he
did-
said
how
to do
did-
theology
How did he get a job from Zimbabwe
from Zimbabwe?
here as a mechanic when there are so many mechanics in Australia?
Yeah, it's very interesting because there's this new program where you fit new equipment in cars, like a computerized, I think something to do with GPSs that you fit in.
Yes.
It was quite new at that point, and he had done that. And so there was a job in the newspaper that says if you're able to do this, we can apply for a job. So he was fortunate enough to get that job and move to Australia.
Moved to Australia.
Yeah.
Now, was he a Christian?
He was a Christian. He was a Christian, and so we moved here, and he hated the job that he was doing here in Australia because it was paid a little less than what it was in Africa. Like it was surprising enough, and so he decided to do theology. So we
Okay.
moved to Avondale to do theology, and during that time, just the marriage was getting so rocky, and I knew that God hated divorce, and I said, God, this is not going right. Something is not right, but I'm just going to stay here and wait here until you give me the direction that I needed to go. So I lived in that marriage until there was a little bit of unfaithfulness in there, and I just said, God, I will stay here until you give me a direction that I need to go. And so it became very obvious that it was time for me to leave because it was getting a little bit dangerous for me and the child, so I moved out.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's interesting you've been saying you waited for direction of God. Obviously you were praying about it.
I was praying because I was feeling like there was no more love in that relationship, and I even doubted whether there was love at all to begin with. And so I moved out after I see some few signs that showed that there was other people involved. I moved out to live in a spare room in the Napi Valley, we call it, in the married units. And so I lived in there for probably almost 12 months with the little boy, and I used to write letters to the other party to say, I want to work things out, but just let me know what is happening. And it made it obvious that he wasn't interested anymore, and there was other people that were involved. So I was praying for it, and after 12 months, I realized that God was saying to me I needed to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, the tragedy of marriage is there's nothing you can do, Malvinas. If you want the marriage to work and the other party does not, then it's a tragedy, one of
It
those
becomes a
things. You can't exist together, and usually in many cases, as you look in the statistics, there is always another person involved.
Absolutely.
In many cases.
Yeah.
So I believe if you stay faithful with the Lord, God will you'll see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
And that's your story today, isn't it?
Absolutely,
How
absolutely.
God has worked from that time on.
Absolutely.
How's your little boy?
He's
How
doing
old
well.
was
He was at this point, I think he was about 4. I'm really bad at dates, but I think he was about 4, and now he's 16. Like he's not a little boy.
That's Marlon.
It's Marlon, yes. He's,
Let's see the photo of you with
Yes.
Marlon.
there he is.
Oh, he was a little boy there.
There's a little boy. He's taller than me now. You would not believe it. Yes.
And Malvinas isn't short.
No, I am not a short person.
It's very
He's-
good.
I must admit that Marlon has got a beautiful smile.
He does. He's quite a handsome little boy.
Yes, he is. He is a
Yes.
very handsome boy. What I want to know is, when you moved out and Marlon was just little, how did you survive?
It was.
And the other question is, what happened with the fact that now you were living in Australia? Were there threats that you could be sent back to Zimbabwe?
Absolutely. At this point, when I moved out, I was dependent on the other party's visa, And so it was obvious that because I was not living with him anymore, it was easy for me to be sent back to Zimbabwe because I didn't have a visa anymore. And so that's where the story began. And so I moved out and lived in a caravan. And I said to God, just like what I saw my mom doing, I said to God, I am on my own. I am a single mom with a little boy, and I really was grateful for the opportunity to be in Australia, but I really don't want to go back to Zimbabwe because Zimbabwe was just going downhill, if you know about what's happening in Africa. So I really prayed that God will help me to stay here and to do something for Marlon so I can look after Marlon. So that's where it started. I went to Avondale College, and I told them my story. I didn't have any year 12 or any requirements that you have to go into Avondale, but I explained to the lady my story, and I told her that I really just was needing some help if they can understand me and I can study something. I hadn't even really decided what I wanted to study, but when I got to there, I said maybe I could study nursing or something. I explained that I was on my own. I didn't have a visa, if they can help me out. And before you know it, the lady was so gracious, and she just said, look, that's not the protocol that we normally take for Avondale. You have to have a certain qualification to get into Avondale. But she was just so good. God used her, and then she just said, okay, I want to help you. And before I know it, she says, I'm going to work a visa out for you, and you can enroll into nursing. And that was it. I had a visa before I know it. So that was the first answer to my prayer. And I realized, okay, if God can do this, I can do this. I can keep going. So yes, that's where I started.
I think in all prayers there's a part on our part to play, and we have to take God, believe in him by faith,
Yes.
and step forward, because you can believe, but if you don't step forward, you'll never know. So
Exactly.
you experienced that. What sort of relationship were you drawn toward God more, to rely more on him?
Yes, it was like the first test. Like I knew that God had answered prayers all along. I was a Christian all along, but really this was the beginning of my relationship with him, to see him at work. And so when I prayed and I said, God, can you please help me to do this? And he did. And I thought, wow, this is who God is. And I felt so comfortable. I felt like, wow, I have a God who actually can protect me, and I don't have to fear, even though I had fears throughout. But I just knew that there is something that was warm in my heart. I knew God was going to help me through because of that first miracle.
So you were secure too, because you had lots of money, weren't you?
Oh man, I never saw money. I was thinking, well, I don't know how other people can live, but I have no money. So I sooner or later realized that to study at Avondale, I'm enrolled, you need money.
Yes.
At Avondale, a lot of money too.
of
And so I thought, wow, this is, if God can help me with the visa, he can help me out with everything. I thought it was going to be that easy, but I went to the financial department, and they were a different crew to the lady at the administration, and they just threatened me and said, oh, you don't have your fees? Well, you were going to be sending you back to Zimbabwe, because there's no here, we don't negotiate with overseas students. You have to pay your school fees in full. And I thought, whoa, okay. So it was like
You're not only looking 1 year now. How many years?
I had to. It was 4 years really, because they allowed me to do general studies. So I had to do 4 years of studying.
Oh,
so I'm thinking I have 4 years of paying $7,000, and it got higher and higher as I went. And so I went home and I prayed, and I said, God, I need your help. I am really desperate here. I need your help. So I knelt down on my bed in the caravan, and I said, God, I am going to work. I was working at this nursing home in Kurumong, the Adventist nursing home, and I was only doing 2 days a week because I was a full-time student. And I said, God, I will work as hard as I can, and I'll raise as much as I can. Whatever that's not there, you're going to help me to raise. And so I went there, and then I went to work, and I was able to raise up to $2,000. And I took a little bit to pay my caravan to get food, and I said, Avondale, here's what I have. And it was probably $1,800. And I said, look, I can pay this, and God will pay the rest. And when I got to the financial department, they said, no, you have to pay your fees in full. That's what they said. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is going to be hard. And I walked away in tears, and I'm thinking, God, you've been working here, and you know, as a human being, you get a little bit, you waver, and I'm thinking,
Yes.
oh, is God going to work here, or what's happening?
God going to come through?
Is God going to come through or not? So it went on and on and on and on, until we were getting very close to starting off classes. And then I had a phone call from Avondale. well, you can start classes now because somebody has paid all your fees in full. And I said, okay, all right. So then I realized that the God that I was talking to was real. He was there, but he works on his own time, not on my time.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Malvinas, too, is that I want to tell the viewers that you didn't sit around waiting. You actually went out and got a job. Today, we want to sit back and wait, you know, for God to do everything. But if you do everything you are able to do in your power, God will multiply whatever you receive.
Absolutely. He gives us the ability to do that. So I thought I will go ahead and do what I'm able to, and then he did the rest.
So there must have been lots of more experiences through those 4 years.
They were tough. They were tough. It went on and on. I can honestly tell you that I paid probably just over a quarter of my fees, and the rest of it God paid. But it wasn't easy. There was so many times I was stretched to the max, and God did not make me survive without being on my knees. I lived on my knees. God helped me, but he came through in so many different directions. Like I thought, how is he going to pay for my fees this time? And another time it was through an old lady that I met from the shopping center, and another time it was through the women ministry. And I'm thinking, how do they know this? Because I never really told anybody. In Africa.
You told God.
Yes, I told God.
That makes the difference.
Exactly. I told God. I never told anyone else around that I was struggling. Really, in fact, I was walking around. What we're taught in Africa, you lift your head high, you go out as if nothing is wrong. Like you don't tell everybody to feel sorry for you. So that's what I did. And God sent people.
God honored that.
He honored that, and he sent people to pay for my fees.
So how did Marlon cope through this time?
You know, it was tough for me, but Marlon didn't really feel what was happening, because every time I felt like there was a moment that I felt like I needed to cry, I always went away into the other room and not show him, because it was really hard for me to watch me cry. And so it was a tough time. I used to live continuously on, we lived on noodles and eggs, me and Marlon. We lived on noodles and eggs, and we lived on Wheat Bix as well, because they were for free. We would have seconds from sanitarium. And one day we had eventually moved out of the caravan, and we thought we'll get into a little granny flat, because after a little while, caravan just becomes uncomfortable. And we lived in a little granny flat, and while I was in there was an old man who was in the main house who said, I'll mind your son and put him on the bus for you, and you will go to school. So God always had somebody for me. Every time that I moved from place to place, he sent somebody to help me. So this man looked after Marlon, and I would drive to Sydney every day for school, back and forth, back and forth.
You did,
and
after the first year.
After the first year.
You have to drive.
Yes. In fact,
Sydney.
after 6 months, when I said it was 6 months of being in Avondale, and then the rest you have to be at Sydney. So I said I used to drive every day.
I think we need to tell the viewers how far that is and how long it took you.
Yeah, it took me about an hour and a half to go and an hour and a half to come back. And
that's
so,
a big commitment.
Yes, it was tough. It was very tough, and so many stories happened on the road, I can tell you.
Well, I'd like to hear some of those stories.
At one point, I had this car, this old car that I named Grace. I called it Grace because this car ran on the grace of God. It didn't have petrol most of the time, but it just kept going. And so this car had died, and I couldn't go to school with it. And so I borrowed a car from a friend of mine. He had this little red car, and he said, well, you can borrow my car, but it doesn't have any fuel in it. It had a yellow light on it, you know, when the yellow gauge come on. And he gave me the car the night before, and then I had lived a life of just borrowing, continuously borrowing money, $20 here, $20, and I was getting tired of it. I got up in the morning to go to class. I had an exam in Sydney. So I got into the car, and I realized, I forgot, this car doesn't have petrol. And so I just, you know, I was feeling this burden weighing me down. I just sat in the car, and I said, God, I'm just really tired of borrowing money continuously. I really have to go to Sydney. I need to go, and I'm just like, you have turned water into wine before. I'm pretty sure you can do something with this. I'm just gonna start driving to Sydney because I need to go. Like, you know. I got in the car, I started driving. If any of you know Kurambong, I drove out of College Drive, and all the way there was 2 petrol stations. The second petrol station, as I was driving, about a 2-kilometer maybe drive, I watched the petrol gauge go up, and it went up, and it went to a quarter of a tank. And at this time,
the gas tank was
on yellow.
On yellow, the light telling you were nearly out of gas.
Yes.
And as you got to this service station,
I watched it go up. I watched it go up. the first time in my life that I've ever felt a presence of somebody in the car. I was shaking. I was just like, God, you're really scaring me right now, because I knew you could do something, but this is a little too close to for my comfort.
This is a little bit left field.
A little bit, yeah, exactly. And I could not believe my eyes. I was just crying. I drove all the way to school, and I was supposed to sing there because it was a week of prayer. I couldn't even sing. I said, I can't sing because what has happened. I have to tell you what happened. And I shared this story with everybody, and it ended up being a testimony time. It wasn't any more week of prayer. Ever just hold hands and prayed. And I was thinking, this is amazing. If God can do this, what else can he not do? You know.
God can do it.
God can do it. He can do it. I remember.
I got a question to ask you.
Got a question? Okay.
Did you drive back without filling the gas tank up?
I didn't fill that gas tank up, but this is funny. I drove back. It was still on the quarter of a tank, but when I got home, it went back down. And I was thinking, I should have prayed for a full tank.
I was thinking of that too, Malvinas.
I should have prayed for a full tank. What was I thinking?
But God fulfilled your prayer and your request to be able to go there and to come home.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we need to be a little bit bolder and ask God to do a bit more.
Absolutely.
But you know, that's a wonderful testimony. That really is. They are miracles that go beyond human thinking and understanding.
I remember when I was alone with my 2 children, and at one stage my washing machine broke down, and I had no money to fix it. But thankfully my mum and dad owned a laundrette. So I was able to go and clean it for them and do my washing.
And do your washing there.
So that was a real help, because otherwise, I mean, I just had no way of washing my clothes.
Wow.
So I was able to go and do that to help my mum and dad, and it helped me as well.
God comes through.
So God provided, because sometimes I had to go and ask for help with the government. Like I know you had to try and go to the community centre and get food vouchers for the supermarket, and I've been in that situation of having to go and take your bank account details, your bills, and show them how you have no money.
Absolutely.
And that you need food. I think there's so many people who go through that situation, and you know, like you said, Marlon didn't know, my children didn't know that that's what we were going through, because they're just too young.
Yes.
They've known now as they're older.
Yes.
But God has a way of helping out, providing ways that you can get help.
Absolutely.
You know, Malvinas, you said you were borrowing $20 here, How did you manage with food? Did God provide for you in some way?
God did provide, I'm telling you. I did not have hardly any money most of the time. And so I'm telling you, noodles and eggs were the cheapest things that I could get. At some point, I remember one day I was in the house doing my assignment, and I'm thinking, I have no milk. I have nothing left in the kitchen. And I said, God, went to my bedroom again, and I said, God, I just need some milk, because I have this kid that I have to feed. I have to give him Weet-Bix. I hated Weet-Bix. I couldn't eat them. Sorry, I can't say that on TV. I couldn't eat them, but I fed this child the Weet-Bix, and this time I didn't have milk, and I went and prayed, and I said, God, just help me to have some milk or something that I can feed this child. And then I got up to walk to the door. When I opened the door, there was bags of food there. There was
bags of food?
Plastic bags, groceries, bags and bags of food. There was noodles and eggs and many more other stuff that I had not prayed for. It was right there by the door, and I thought, how faithful is God? How faithful is He that when you ask at the time that you're in need, He provides you. And that's what He did. And He did that continuously. I remember I continuously started getting a box of fruit and vegetables every Friday.
Is that right?
Yeah, for a long time. I didn't know where it was coming from, but every Friday I had a box of fruit and vegetables.
So you'd go out in the morning, or?
I will go to school, and then I'll come back on Friday, and the box was there.
Okay.
Right by the door, fruit and vegetables every Friday. It was the most amazing thing. And I said, you know, the God that we serve, when you start to trust in Him, He does so much stuff that surprises you, that surprises the real eye. Like you cannot explain it, how it's happening. But that's what He does. He can bring food right by your door.
So did you find out who was bringing the food eventually?
I think eventually I worked it out.
Yeah.
It took me a long time,
Yeah.
but I think eventually I worked it out. Through somebody else, I worked it out who it was.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that I'd like for you out there to consider. There are many people, single people, who are really in need. We just need to open our eyes and our ears and hear, and just a thing like that, I guess $20, but for somebody that's life, and that's a blessing and an encouragement to go forward. And if you know, as Christians, I believe that we should be on the watch to help those who are in need. And Malvinas, someone did that for you.
Absolutely.
And I believe that God spoke to their heart, because
Absolutely.
that's a Christian characteristic.
It's a simple thing to do, to go and get some food from the supermarket and take it to somebody that you know is struggling. And we should be finding out who is struggling.
Yes.
Most of us, it won't hurt us to do that sometimes for someone, but it may be the answer to their prayers and the very thing that we can do that can change their lives and their relationship with God.
For sure.
Just like I know it was blessing you and encouraging you in yours.
Absolutely.
And Marlon in his too.
Oh, absolutely.
So come with us some more stories of miracles. These are incredible.
Yes.
You know, it points to your faith.
Oh, I used to think I didn't have any faith at all.
But your faith must have grown.
Must
because
have.
I believe that God does that.
Yes.
To inspire us to trust in Him more. The more we trust in Him, He's telling us, you're going to have eternal life one day. I'm going to have eternal life. If we're
Exceeding
faithful,
abundantly more than we could ask or think.
Absolutely.
Eternal life.
I remember one day, like, you know, there were so many stories that happened, but there's so many, some of them just stand out. At one point, my car had started working again. Grace had started working. So I was driving from Sydney this time, from school, and my life was always a rush, back and forth to be with the boy and to be at class. And at this point, I'm rushing back home, and just right up by the freeway, my car just decided to run out of petrol. Of course, there was nothing new there. And I was thinking, God, right here in the middle of the freeway, it's like getting dark.
You don't want to stop,
I don't want to
you?
stop right now. So I pulled over to the side, and I just sat in the car, and I just started crying because I was thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Because even if anyone stops to help me, I don't have money to give them. Because normally you say, I ran out of petrol. Go buy this. Can you buy me petrol or something? But I didn't have it. So much stuff is going on in my head. And then I hear this voice that keeps saying, get out of the car, get out of the car. And I'm just thinking, oh, and I'm thinking the worst of the worst. You know, we have very little faith. I'm praying, but I'm also thinking something else. And then I eventually walked out of the car, and I pulled my hand like this, and I'm thinking, I think that's what hitchhikers do. So I got out there, and then all of a sudden, a four-wheel drive went by very fast, because this is a freeway, and another four-wheel drive went by, and then all of a sudden, a green station wagon just slowed down and pulled over right to where I was. And this white guy with rough red hair is just walking towards me, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do now? And I'm actually getting nervous.
Yeah, female by herself.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm on my own. What's going on? And then this guy comes in, was very kind, and he says, are you okay, ma'am? And I said, no, I ran out of petrol. And he goes, oh, I have 15 liters in my car. And I'm thinking, I don't know anyone who drives with extra petrol in their car. I don't normally do that. I don't know about you guys. And so I realized God just right there on the right time had sent somebody else with fuel, and he just pulled his car closer to mine and he says, open your tank. And I opened, and he put petrol in there and says, start your car. And I started my car, and then they drove off. And I was thinking, God,
He didn't ask you for any payment?
I didn't ask. No, he didn't. He just said, okay, I think you're good to go then. And then he just went in his car and drove off. He didn't ask me for anything. All the plans that I was headed, I should tell him, I don't have any money to give you. He didn't say anything. He just gave me petrol and left. And I'm thinking, God, there's nowhere I can go. Even if I go under the sea, you're there. Even if it doesn't matter where I am. I can hide anywhere, but God's still there. And he saw me through.
That is really very
It must have been an angel.
thought-provoking. Yeah, that's what I was going to add
Yes,
to. Yeah.
I think it was an angel. I was thinking, what was that? I could not believe that. I could not believe that. Right on time. I think it was an angel.
With the fuel.
Yes, with fuel.
God's always on time.
He's always on time.
We're the ones that are late.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes angels like to dress up like someone
I think so. I like to
that
think
you would
so.
think, oh, I don't know about this.
Exactly. That's what I felt like.
So for 4 years, you're going through these experiences, you're watching God do all these miracles.
All these miracles.
The end of 4 years, did you graduate?
I eventually did graduate, but I tell you, on the 4 years, it was so interesting to be in a class, because I was kind of like a mature age student, and being in a class with all these young people, and they were just cruising and living life. It was tough for me too to study. I wasn't a very good student at all. Like, it took me a long time to do any assignment because I wasn't very academic like a lot of them were, and it was just a struggle to get through the 4 years.
There's your graduation photo.
Yeah.
There it is. Yes, it was like the best day of my life.
It would have been, wouldn't it?
It was the best day of my life. I eventually graduated, but before I graduated, I had negged the financial department that much that they allowed me to pay off my fees.
Is that right?
They said, oh, now, because you just keep coming here, okay, you can pay off your fees, but you will not graduate until you pay all the rest of your fees. And so then I was owing $6,000. And one night I thought, wow, I need to graduate. I've struggled so much, I need to graduate.
You can't work without.
I can't work without, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I went to work. I was working night shift at the aged care. And I was working with this little lady. She was a smoker. And so I said to God, you know, God, I'm going to pray. I'm praying for $6,000. I really need $6,000 to graduate. And it's needed in 2 weeks before graduation. And so anytime this woman goes for a smoke, I am going to go for a prayer. Boy, I actually regret praying that, because this woman was just a chain smoker. She kept going out and smoking nonstop.
So you had to keep praying.
And I kept praying, and I was thinking, I'm getting tired. And I said, God, it's just me again. I'm asking for $6,000 for school fees.
Please don't mind that I'm bothering you.
Yeah, I'm just like, I didn't know it was going to be this much, you know. You know, and I said to the lady, boy, you smoke a lot, don't you? You know, and she's like, what, have you been timing me or what? You know, and I went home the following morning, and I got home, and I was doing a little bit of exercise before I could shower. And then I get a phone call from a friend of mine, and they said, oh, come over to our house. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting that they're calling me after I finished working night shift. So I got in the car and I went to their house. When I got to their house, they both had very unusual face on there. And I was thinking, what is going on? So the husband says, oh, sit down. And then I sit down, and then the husband starts to speak, and he says, Malvinas, we have watched you. We have watched God do so much stuff in your life, so many miracles, like it just blows our mind. And somebody had borrowed $6,000 from us 2 years ago, and they've given this $6,000 back. And he said, when I was walking down towards my wife to tell her that I think we need to give this money to Mal, she walked to him and said, you know, Rob, I think we need to give that money to Malvinas. And so they both agreed, and God spoke to both of them on different times. And then they said, so we're not going to go and put this in the bank. We're going to give it to you to do whatever you need to do to finish off. And then when you finish, when you start working, you can give us the money as you see, as you're able. And so there it was, an envelope with $6,000 in my hands. And I thought, I could not believe it. Like, I said, God, what else can you do? You know, like, God was just like, he owns 1,000 cattle on a hill, and there's nothing that he's not able to do.
You know, there's something else that he can do in your life.
Yep.
And that is answer your prayers for a husband.
Oh, I tell you
Now,
what.
I just want to interrupt there for a minute, Malvinas. Isn't it interesting? $6,000. You know, this is how God works. It's divine providence. He's worked it out before you even began to pray.
Exactly.
But he's just waiting for you to pray.
Waiting for me to ask.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he's put it in the hearts of those people to do, you know, to do that special gift.
Absolutely.
And I just marvel at God, because many times when we've been building this building and setting up this centre, God has done that many times too. He will provide the right amount. It's
amazing.
Divine providence, without a question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I went over to Avondale and gave it to them, and the whole financial department were looking at me like with smile. What happened? Where did you get that from this time? And I said, well, I know somebody in the high places.
That's true.
So tell us about this husband you prayed for.
About this husband. So I used to have this, sometimes I would get tired of praying because it was just, I had so much burdens weighing on me, and sometimes I just couldn't pray. So I used to have this little box box on the side of my bed that I used to write letters to God when I couldn't really speak. I would just write to God exactly that I was feeling and just pour my heart out. I used to put it in the box every time, and I would go every year to check the letters to see which one has been answered, or, you know. And so I wrote a letter when I think it was my 3rd year of nursing. I wrote this letter and I said, you know, God, for a long time there, I had hated men, and I said, you know, men are horrible, but that's not true at all. And so I don't want to live the rest of my life on my own. So I started praying for this man. And I described to God, and I said, God, you know, this man has to love my son like their own. Like he can be, I don't want 5 different men before I find the right one. So God, you need to take your time. I'm not in a hurry. And so I'm telling God, and I said, God, this man has to love me, because I've never really felt that at all in my life, to be loved by somebody. And then I said to God, this man has to be taller than me, and he has to have a long nose and long hair.
Long nose.
And long nose and long hair. I don't know why, but that was the plan. And I said to God, this is a letter, and God, I am not in a hurry. Take your time as much as you can. So I put that letter in, and then I think 12 months or so went by. One day I went to Avondale College. It was a week of prayer. And I get to Avondale College, and then there was this guy in the front of the church playing guitar. And it wasn't a good song at all. He was playing this song, and it was a question about his doubts for God. And I was thinking, wow, that's an interesting song. Like, you know, being a person who sings, I was thinking, wow, interesting song. But anyway, when Heb Larson, if you know Heb Larson, had finished speaking, he was a speaker, I walked towards him to say hello and thank you for what he had been speaking about. And then this guy shook my hand. I said, oh, hello, thanks for your song. I really didn't mean it. The song wasn't that good.
She was not sincere.
I was just,
You're being
I was
polite.
being polite. Exactly,
Yeah,
I was just being
right.
polite. And I said, thanks for the song. And then this guy held my hand for a few seconds, and then I said, oh, I just need to go speak to Heb Larson. And then he let go of my hand. And then I went to speak to Heb Larson. When I came back, this guy was speaking to my son, because my son plays music as well. So he's talking to my son, and I was thinking, oh, okay. So I walked back to where this guy was. I start talking to him, and to everybody I meet, I just start telling him my testimony. So I started to tell my testimony to this guy, and then I spoke to him probably about an hour. There was nothing at all that I thought about him. And then a week went by. I started seeing this person every time. Like, I would be walking to the library holding my bags, and this guy will just say, oh, can I hold your bag? Can I help you? And I'll be in the library, oh, what are you up to? And I was like, is this person stalking me, because I'm seeing him often than I need to? Like, it's really interesting. And then it clicked in my head, the letter? And then I looked at this person and I said, he has a long nose, he has long hair, but boy, he looks rough. No, that's not the person.
Let's have a look at how rough he was.
He looked rough.
He looked rough.
And so, yeah, I prayed for long hair, but a lot neater than that. It was not supposed to be like that. And the long nose was a little too extreme. And so I went home and I said, God, this is funny, huh? Like, I laughed and I said, God, your sense of humor, I don't like it sometimes, because this is not the person I prayed for. He was supposed to be very, very neat and, but I knew after a week, this was the person that I prayed for, because he fell in love with my son. He just was like spending so much time. I was getting jealous.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was spending so much.
He was using some psychology, Melvin.
Yeah, he was spending more time with my son. And I was thinking, I did pray for that, but I want to have some time too. But I knew for sure this was the person that God had sent for me. Yes.
So what did you do about it?
Well, before a week went by and we started dating, and I knew there was no doubt this was the guy for me. So we dated for over a year, and I said we want to graduate, because he was also a student from America. Yeah, so we met, and then we hung out, and he went back to America and finished his social work, and I finished my nursing, and we were dating over long distance for a while there, and then probably after a year or so, we got married.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, yeah, he's scrubbed out real nice now.
He has, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
Let's see the transformation that you did in his life.
I know.
Well, that with God,
did.
you did in his life.
Oh, there you go.
And there he doesn't look the same man.
Oh,
sure?
he looks very handsome. I did a lot of work.
You sure it's the same person? He doesn't have long hair there.
No, we've cut the hair, and he looks very neat.
Yeah. Do you know, Malvinas? I was wondering, where was the spirituality? You know, you prayed to God to send a man. What did you see in this man, apart from the fact that he...
Oh, and by the way, his name is Blake.
Yes.
Yes, I forgot to tell you his name is Blake Penland.
Yes.
And so when I watched him, when I met him, he had so much stuff that was going on in his life, but God covered all those stuff because I hadn't prayed for those. I said, God, I want this man to know you, to love you. And just the love that he gave to Marlon, and he told me about his family. His family were Adventist, and I knew that it was the person that God had prayed for me, that I had prayed for.
So
and
did you feel the first time a love reciprocated?
I did. I did. After that week, I did. After I started stopped looking at how he looked like outside.
You were looking at the cover.
I was looking at the cover, but and then after a week or so, I realized, wow, this person has a really good heart, and I think that there's something special there. And then so
You started reading the book.
I started, yes, exactly. I started reading the book, and I could see it in him. And I thought, if anyone could love somebody else's child, they have a good heart. And so from that love that he was giving to my son, I thought, this person is the one that God has sent for me.
So you have since then, you have a daughter.
Yes, I've been married now for going to 6 years now, and I have a little daughter. Her name is Misper, and she's now 3.
She's absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, so I have to agree with you. She's beautiful. And yeah, so we're living life. You know, life is not easy at all. We continue to face trials and temptations and all sorts. Like my husband Blake has lost his father in April from cancer, and I've lost my mom in August. She passed away. So within 4 months or so, we've lost 2 parents. You know. But God is faithful. He sees us through, and we keep going. But we trust in Him because we have seen Him work, and we will continue to trust in Him even through the trials.
But you and Blake now have your own ministry.
Yes.
Tell us about Miracles Without Borders.
We have a ministry called Miracles Without Borders. We've realized that God does so much stuff, and when God does miracles like this, He's not doing them so that you can keep those miracles to yourself. He wants you to go and testify what He's doing so that the whole world can see what He's doing in your life and what He can do in other people's lives. So we have this website that we call Miracles Without Borders, and people can go on there and they can share what God is doing in their lives. And so you can go there and read and share and testify. And so all over the world, people post on there if they have something that God has done in their lives. So it's really been good, and we go around from church to church, and I sing and we share our testimonies together. And so that's our ministry.
So do you have a lot of hits with people coming on?
We do have, we've just it's starting to pick up now. So yeah, we do have a lot of people that just goes on there and share their stories, and it's really amazing what God does on there, because you hear stories from all over the world, and you know that the God that you serve, He's the God of the whole world, and so
He's alive.
He's alive.
He's performing those
He's
things.
alive.
That's very
active.
important, because
Absolutely.
you know, we're very privileged as Christians to know that we serve a living God, and He does care for each one of us.
Absolutely.
I keep thinking He knows the number of your hairs on your
Well,
head.
He doesn't have
not
as
much
many
on yours.
on your head.
But what I'm saying is, He takes particular detail, you know, and notice of each human being there is, and that's including you out there that's watching. There is a God who loves you, and He wants to provide for you, just like He did for Malvinas.
Absolutely.
I encourage you to get to know Him by taking your Bible and learning about Him. If you go to the Gospels in the New Testament, you'll find in there the wonderful stories of how Jesus cared for each one of us. And Malvinas, Jesus has cared for you. And there's nothing more greater than to share what the experiences we have with others, because our testimonies are the living actions of God.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Absolutely.
Actually, you said that for viewers to get their Bibles and read them to find out about God, but there may be people that are watching this who don't have a Bible, and I'd encourage you to pray for one, because I know people who do pray for a Bible because they don't have one, and God does provide it, and sometimes in miraculous ways. So don't think just because you haven't got a Bible you can't find out about God.
Yes.
Ask Him, and He will provide.
Absolutely.
Just like He provided for you,
Absolutely.
He's provided for me.
Absolutely.
Now, Malvinas, you also do something else. You share your faith in song.
Yes.
And we were very privileged to have you here at the 3ABN studios, and you saw earlier on Malvinas singing. But what have you done with your singing?
Yeah, I have recorded. I'm now recording my third album, actually, right now as we speak.
Yeah.
And so I have been recording, and what we do is when I record, I go around doing our testimonies, and if we do concerts in the evening, we sell our CDs. But what we do with that ministry is we send children in Africa to school. So we have, yeah, that's what we do. We have sent so far 2 children, well, actually 3 children. One is just graduated from video and production and editing.
Maybe you can come here, Malvinas.
Yes, I was thinking that. And another one is graduated from accounting. So, and we have another one who is wanting to be a lawyer. And we have so many. We have done, another girl has done pastry chef.
Okay.
And so we have sent a few of those children. So we continue to do that with our album, literally. That's what the money goes for. When I sell CDs, it goes straight to school fees.
Now, you may have heard what Malvinas has said, and really that's something that you can help and support, because I think it's very commendable, Malvinas, of what you and Blake are doing in that respect, to be able to go out and help people. I don't believe there's any greater joy in this world than helping others.
Absolutely.
Because that is really what we're about.
What it's all about.
Yeah. So if you want to get hold of those CDs, you can do so by looking at this ministry, Malvinas, The Saviour is Waiting. This is what CD?
This is my second album, and yeah, the third one is in process right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Malvinas.com.au.
That's it. Yeah.
So just take that down, and you can contact her and get hold of this CD. It's going to help someone to be blessed, as you have been blessed.
Yes.
And what a better way to use what God has given you, a gift, to help others. I don't think there's any other better way.
Yes.
And I know, Malvinas, you don't just sing any songs. Tell us a little bit about that.
No, I love to sing old hymns.
Okay.
I like to just, they have such meaning, and
Yes.
they just, and I feel like we're slowly trying to get rid of them, and I'm just like trying to revive them. So that's what I do. I get old hymns and just try and revive them because they have such meaning. You know, you can go to a hymn, you know,
It's uplifting,
and
isn't
it
it?
really uplifts you up. Like, it's just the words are so powerful.
I always think they uplift us, but where? They lift us up to God.
Yeah, up to
Yes.
God.
And
so,
so that's exciting, because that's what I'd like to do in my life, is to be an influence. And I know that we struggle with that, but if we attempt it, God then does His little piece, His miraculous working, and we are able to help.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's right. Because hymns have a way of, they lift us up to God. They don't lift us up, in ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly.
In exalting ourselves, they always point us to God,
To God.
in a beautiful way.
Yes.
I love hymns.
Malvinas, we know that people would be interested in helping with Miracles Without Borders.
Putting their testimonies down there,
Yep. And
or whatever.
this is how you can do it. We'll put an address roll up
Yes.
just now.
Yes.
If you would like to contact Malvinas through her ministry, Miracles Without Borders, you may email her at contact@miracleswithoutborders.org. That email address again, contact@miracleswithoutborders, all one word, .org. Find out more about her ministry by pointing your web browser to www.miracleswithoutborders.org. You may also follow them on Twitter with the handle @MWOBorders. Contact her today. She'd love to hear from you.
Well, I hope you wrote that down, because I don't believe there's any better way that we can help by using someone else to help others. Malvinas, you've had all these miracles. We've heard about them, and you've shared them. You know, there are many people out there maybe saying, well, Malvinas, that's for you.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? I'd like you to talk to our viewers and encourage them about miracles and what's happened with you.
I want to encourage you that the God that we pray to, that we worship, He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can think or ask. So He's able. What I'm saying is, have faith in Him, trust in Him, and He's able to see you through. It doesn't matter how small or how big your problem is, God is able to do that. So I encourage you to share your story. Everybody has a story. If you have a story, go on Miracles Without Borders, share with others what God has done in your life so that His name can be uplifted, so that when He comes, we can all meet in glory.
Amen.
And one of the things about Miracles Without Borders that I like is that by putting the stories up on the internet, then other people who are needing encouragement and needing help, you know, if you are needing that, you can go to that website, miracleswithoutborders.org, is it?
Yes.
And people can go there. You can go there at any time and read the stories of how God has helped others, and know that God has a blessing for you. God has something He can do in your life to help you in your situations. Just ask Him, like Malvina says, her mother did the same, and you learnt to do that.
Absolutely.
And so I encourage our viewers to use that resource and put yours up too to help others.
Yeah.
You know, Malvinas, I want to thank you for coming on, because I've been inspired. Sometimes we forget about what God does.
Yeah.
You know, in our next program, we're going to talk to Blake, your husband,
Yep.
because he has a story.
You will
too.
hear his
Certainly
story.
does.
Yes. And,
We'll see how he went from the
From
long
being-
hair
That's
to
right.
the
yeah.
That's
and,
it.
more,
and you know, the miracles still keep coming, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
They continue to come. Like, I just am amazed. And Blake always says, I didn't never experienced miracles before, but when I met you, like, it's like, wow, there's miracles continuously. So it's exciting, and he's excited. He's just we just love what God does for us. When we pray, he's there, and so it's very hard for me to doubt God. Like, it's very hard for me now to think, oh, God is not able. I know He's able, because I have lived it and I've seen it firsthand.
So God has overseen in your life from a single person with a child.
Yep.
Now you're happily married.
Yes.
You have another child, and God is still going on.
He's still going
And-
on. He doesn't stop.
And I remember we were actually present at Marlon's baptism,
Yes.
and
Yes.
he gave a testimony.
Yes.
Oh.
And it was beautiful.
Yes.
It was a
Yes.
lovely
Touched my heart.
spiritual occasion. I really
Yes.
enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm so grateful for what God has done and
Yeah.
where He
So
has
you've
taken
passed
me.
it on.
Yes. Hopefully.
Malvinas, we're looking forward to hearing more miracles from you and your
Yes.
family and your ministry
Yes.
sometime in the future.
Yes.
As God leads you, I know you're leaving these fair lands of Australia,
Yes.
but I just want to say to you, Jesus is coming soon.
Yep.
We need to be ready. I want to encourage each one of you. Thank you for joining us today. God bless you.
Thank you.